From Buffalo Wild Wings in Grand Forks, welcome to Benchwarmers. Today's featured guests are Mark Pryor, UND volleyball head coach; Tom Miller, sports reporter for the Grand Forks Herald; Greg Steman, MidcoSN basketball analyst; and our host, Midco Sports Network's Tom Neiman.
Hello, welcome to Benchwarmers at Buffalo Wild Wings in Grand Forks, North Dakota this week. And another brilliant panel assembled here, and then Steman showed up, but we're going to roll with it anyway. So welcome in, and we're going to talk a lot about UND athletics, obviously, but the Stanley Cup is done, and the Penguins win it again. Another UND guy, Carter Rowney, who played here about 4 years ago for the University of North Dakota on that Penguins team. And seems like there's always a connection between UND hockey and the NHL, Tommy, and it's a beautiful thing to have that connection, isn't it?
Yeah, that's an interesting, I don't think a lot of people would have pegged Carter Rowney as the guy who would have been the Stanley Cup champion. He's, had to grind through the minors a little bit, and, it's a pretty exciting time for him. I think he just became a father. Saw a picture today where he's got his little guy in the Stanley Cup, so, yeah.
But more so than any other major school around here, major college, UND has that connection to the NHL more so than any other school does to a major professional league, don't they, Steve?
Yeah, it's a credit to the program, and not only the connection but the impact at the NHL level that the different guys have had, and very well known, and the success that they've experienced. It's a credit to the development that they receive at University of North Dakota, and so credit to the coaches and the previous coaches and the current staff just to see those things happen. And then on a side note, you got a guy from down the road in Moorhead, and Matt Cullen, who's probably going to go out on top, probably retire, but I know he's a St. Cloud grad, but at the same time played in the same league as UND, and that just shows the level of play that these guys play week in and week out up at the University of North Dakota.
Yeah, I know the kid from Omaha that was on that Penguins team, just all those connections. And I know you're a Texas guy, but in your time here in North Dakota, have you gotten into hockey a little bit, or were you before?
We've kind of had to. I think that this story with Carter is unbelievable. I think any student athlete can find value in this. That this kid has just worked and worked and worked, and hard work pays off. So it's so great to see that he's actually getting a chance to enjoy, something that, what percentage of hockey players when they start out actually get a chance to hold that and have their name on the cup? It's unreal.
It is. It's always a great story. And the NHL, all you heard last night was it's the hardest championship to win. Why? Have you heard this? Why is that? Why is the Stanley Cup harder than anything else to win? Or is it?
Maybe it's because the season seems to go about 10 months.
All right, I just was looking for an explanation on that, but
I think it always goes. You always see the 1-8 upsets in hockey. It just goes back to if you have one hot player in the goaltender, it creates so many more upsets in the NHL playoffs, and I think that has a lot to do with it. And I know you respect my hockey knowledge, and but at the same time, I think it's accurate. I think that's where you see many more upsets in the NHL playoffs, just because you get a hot goal.
And you can't stack a team. There's salary cap issues and things like that, where you can't stack a team like you can in the NBA, and that's the other thing going on right now. Obviously, we sit here on a Monday to record this show. Game 5 in the NBA Championship Series is tonight, Golden State and Cleveland. We're going to make a prediction and see who looks brilliant on Wednesday. Who you got in Game 5, Cleveland or Golden State?
My heart is with the Cavs, and I work in the NCAA, so I cannot bet. But if I did wager, I'd wager on on Golden State finishing out probably by 10-15 tonight.
All right.
I like Cleveland right now. I think they're, we always talk in sports about can't fake desperation. Their backs are against the wall right now. So I thought that was evident in Game 4. So I think they maintain that and win this one.
Cleveland, all right.
Yeah.
Cleveland's formula for success is to have a record-breaking offensive performance. I don't know if they can do that in back-to-back games. I mean, Golden State's so talented, it's hard to outscore them. So I'm going to go out on a limb, make a bold prediction, and say I think Cleveland will win, but I'll be amazed if they do.
All right. I think Golden State's probably going to close it out at home in Game 5. But they've kind of become, you said, the evil empire right now. How did Cleveland and LeBron James, the hated LeBron James, become the good guy in this series? And now Golden State, they've been a little whiny, especially in Game 4, and Draymond Green and all these guys they're unlikable at this point. Does that make a difference? I still like the good guys to win. Does that make a difference to you guys or not?
I just like Cleveland, when you look at some of those role players, nobody else in the league is going to hire those guys. This is their shot. And so I like pulling for that underdog. I mean, yes, everybody's been over the whole Durant thing. He couldn't beat him, so I'm going to take the money and I'm going to join him.
Yeah.
Is that the easy way out? Yeah.
We'd all probably do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can't blame him for that. That's what he wanted to do. I think for me, I'd rather see the guy that's got one shot left in the league. Deron Williams was cut, and all of a sudden they pick him up, and he's playing a few minutes here or there. But you've got a lot of those guys with the Cavs that all have got that same story. Now, they're riding on LeBron James's back, but if you've seen him, it's a pretty big back that they can ride on.
Huge. And the underdog, LeBron James, it just sounds wrong, but I'm pulling for him. I don't know why.
Well, and the irony in all of this is that the criticism of Golden State is they're building this, getting all these guys together to win a championship. Well, who did that in the first place down in Miami? LeBron goes with Bosh and Dwayne Wade. And so it's kind of interesting that the roles have reversed, but at the same time, if there's a guy that can carry a team to a win in the game at Golden State, it's LeBron.
Well, I think LeBron is kind of a guy some people cheer for because he's drawn so much criticism. Life just always seems to be hard for him because everybody wants to compare him to Jordan, or they expect this and that from him. I think because he's always the center of attention, I think you're able to root for him a little bit.
And he's carried himself, I think, with integrity, if you want to call it that, more so than some of these other guys have, and it's easy to root for LeBron right now. We'll see what happens on Monday night in Game 5. All right, when we come back, the University of North Dakota, big announcement that came earlier this year. The school is going to move its athletic programs from the Big Sky into the Summit League starting in 2018. We'll see what these guys think about that when we come back.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers here at Buffalo Wild Wings, Grand Forks, North Dakota, home of the University of North Dakota. And an announcement, huge announcement, earlier this year in January that all of the sports programs at the University of North Dakota will move from the Big Sky to the Summit League starting not this coming year, but in 2018. This is a big deal, is it not? And just your initial reaction as the volleyball coach at North Dakota when you heard this.
Well, when you think about it, I mean, what else can we do in the Big Sky, right?
You just won the regular season and
not just us,
tournament,
but football,
you guys, and football,
and both basketballs.
Yes.
Let's go win another league. So I think for us, it makes a lot of sense just from a standpoint from the regional rivalries. We're going to have an opportunity, to increase attendance. It's going to give the kids a better fan experience, and I think also it's going to help revenue. I think that we'll probably get more fans from the Dakotas that might come up to see our teams play than maybe Portland State or Sacramento State. Call me crazy, but I think that's probably going to happen.
All right.
I think that we'll probably have a lot less travel, too, so it'll be easier for the student athlete.
And there are a lot of good things. There are some drawbacks, and I know
yes.
There are some other things to talk about on the negative side. And Tommy, you've talked about this, how it has been fun, especially in football and some of these things, to go cover the team in Big Sky cities. That's been a good thing about being in the Big Sky.
I think that's one of the draws. I think when you have the Big Sky is, hey, do you in November do you want to go hang out in San Luis Obispo, California? Yeah. I certainly do. Some of the Big Sky destinations are very pretty, especially when you're coming from flat Grand Forks and it's cold. And then you go somewhere else and there's mountains and a beautiful setting. But that's also expensive. And I think that's what the university is looking at here. Yeah,
obviously this is a financial move more than anything. But Steamer, when you look at it from a competitive point of view, what's your opinion on that?
Well, on some of the sports, I think when you look at the football side of things, the Missouri Valley Football League has made an agreement that UND can come in. I think that's clearly one of the best leagues. Big Sky's always been good in football. In the others, the RPIs vary. Like on the volleyball side, Big Sky's higher rated league than the Summit League is, but I think UND helps shift that a little bit too. They're one of the top ranked teams in that league, and so I think it comes down to, if you're the Summit League commissioner, it's a wise move, because with all the movement across the country, anytime you can add teams to your league, especially in the regional footprint, you're crazy not to do it. And obviously from a financial standpoint, I think UND made a decision that they had to make.
But as you said, Coach, you learn to love where you're at. don't you? I mean, when the decision was made to go to the Big Sky in the first place, nobody was real sure about that. But you kind of learn to love where you're competing, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think Tom was the one that asked me at the press conference. He's like, so what do you think about it? I'm like, the Big Ten didn't give us an invite, so this is just as good. I think that, you mentioned the regional ramifications. Well, there's so much movement as far as conferences right now. It makes sense. It makes sense for us to get as many regional schools together as possible. So that way we can have more bus trips for our kids. Our fans can be a little more involved and really kind of know and recreate kind of some of those NCC rivalries. I think that's going to be really important for us as we kind of continue to grow our program, that we've got a little more of rivalry week stuff going on. When I got here, I was upset we weren't playing North Dakota State home and away every year. It made zero sense. It wasn't smart for the state. Yeah. Well, this is the last year we have to deal with it just once. After that, it's going to be home and away consistently.
And from the outside looking in, you talk about the old NCC, the North Central Conference, which included North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Omaha was in there, Northern Colorado has gone away, but up and down I-29, that from the outside looking in, that is a beautiful thing to get all those schools back together. So, and you're going to miss some of the beautiful road trips, Tommy, but that's got to be a good thing for you too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it makes even the storylines even stronger when there's good media markets in Fargo and in the Sioux Falls area. Sometimes it's hard to come across information on Big Sky programs when you get out of North Dakota, because sometimes you're the little guy in, say, Portland or Sacramento. So I think from a media perspective, it's going to be good for the university and for the league.
All right, we got a poll question coming up later about it was a simple yes or no. Are you excited about North Dakota joining the Summer League in 2018? And we'll get to those numbers. And overwhelmingly, they're positive, but there's about 15% that say, no, we don't want this to happen. There's going to be some resistance from North Dakota State fans that just don't want North Dakota to be in the same league. That is true, isn't it?
Without question. I think in this state, your preference for your color of green matters. And at the same time, that's what's going to make this rivalry getting back together that much better. And that's what you love about college athletics is oftentimes not only the competition that takes place on the court or the field, but also the environment in which it takes place. And I just think it's going to be really good for these two schools to be meeting on a yearly basis.
All right, more about UND sports when we come back. We're going to talk a little bit about, there was a sport here, baseball, that was cut a few years ago, but Tom Miller has written on a couple of guys that would have played baseball here at UND that had phenomenal seasons in college baseball this year. We'll talk about that and some UND football and basketball when we come back.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers in Grand Forks. The College World Series starts this Saturday, and they've had to make, obviously, some tough decisions here at UND, cutting some sports over the last couple of years. Baseball was one of them a couple of years ago. But, Tom, there were two guys you've written about recently that would have been here and played college baseball at UND that have had unbelievable seasons for other teams this past year. Talk about Jake Adams first.
Yeah, well, Jake Adams was a kid they had signed and ended up now going to Iowa. Leads the country in home runs.
Yeah.
And that was just going to be a great find. I mean, think about that. Leads the country in home runs and was going to come to this northern place to play an outdoor sport, And I think that's a credit to Jeff Dodson and Brian DeVillers and the staff that was in place here at UND, that they not only were they able to recruit high-level kids like Jake Adams and Matt Wallner at Southern Miss, but they were able to do it with 5-ish scholarships.
When they
so
could have had 11 at the max, right?
A max at 11, and so they were doing that with 5 scholarships. I think that's what's even more amazing than just normally.
Adams from Brandon, South Dakota, ends up at Iowa. He hit 29 home runs this year. Led the NCAA in home runs. And then Matt Wallner, the other guy you said, at Southern Miss, was the Conference USA Freshman of the Year. He had 19 home runs. So,
and we'll probably have an opportunity with Team USA. I mean, so those guys could have been batting 3-4 in UND's lineup. That's tough timing.
All right. Speaking of Team USA, national teams, you're going to have a couple of kids that played for you this past season play on what national team?
Well, USA Volleyball has a collegiate national group, and they take 36 kids. The tryout was a little over 400. We had Faith Dooley and Sydney Griffin both make that program. We thought it was a good year for them to try out because they're actually having them train and play in Minneapolis for about a 2-week span. So number one, it was close. They're going into their senior year, so we said, hey, let's fly about 4 kids up to the training center, have them go through the process. They've deserved it. It was a great experience for them. And I really felt that Sydney and Faith had a pretty good shot at it. So for them to get a chance to play against multiple Power 5 kids at an elite level and train in that environment, that's only going to help us. So we just thought it was a good opportunity for them, and very few kids get a chance to wear the red, white, and blue.
And there were no Summit League kids that made this team, by the way.
Or Big Sky.
Okay. All right. A little bit on basketball here. The UND men's basketball team's been hit by the grad transfer bug. Carson Shanks is going to leave and go to Loyola Chicago.
Yep.
That's what we've learned. And then Drick Bernstein, a kid who played at Denver and then transferred here, is going to transfer out again and go where?
To Washington State.
He's going to Washington
Pac-12.
State. So that's 2 guys, especially Bernstein, who had an outstanding season. The grad transfer thing is not new, but it's coming. It's rearing its ugly head, it seems like. Steven, what do you think?
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to change. Unless legislation at the NCAA level changes. They're trying to create opportunities for kids, and in this day and age, if things aren't exactly how you want them, or you think it might be a little bit better somewhere else, there are very few barriers to keep you from taking advantage of those opportunities. And yeah, it's a tough one. Shanks, to lose him is difficult. The 7th player is going to find a home anywhere, but Bernstein was really going to be counted on as a key returner and a key centerpiece in next year's team. That's a tough loss for the UND men's basketball team.
Things to be sorted out. They still got to get a contract for head coach Brian Jones worked out here at UND. When we come back to Buffalo Wild Wings, our Winging It question of the week from the lunchtime crowd here at BW.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers. Time for our Winging It question of the week. We go into the lunchtime crowd here at Buffalo Wild Wings for a random question, and with that, here is Jody Norstead.
Thanks, Tom. Yes, our Winging It question today comes from Nick Wheelhouse from Crookston, Minnesota. A question that might be right in our panel's wheelhouse. Nick, what do you have for a question for our panel?
I was just wondering how the schools are going to be able to recruit against NDSU and the South Dakotas now that we're back with our rivals and stuff.
There you go, guys. A question about recruiting in the new leagues coming up in the Summit League and the Missouri Valley. Tom?
All right, great question from Nick here at Buffalo Wild Wings. How does recruiting change for the University of North Dakota programs when they move from the Big Sky to the Summit League in 2018?
From my standpoint, I don't know that it changes a lot from a football standpoint. Bubba really came in and I think established his program and said he wanted to build it like a Missouri Valley football team anyway. Very physical, hard-nosed. They have their Minnesota, North Dakota, Wisconsin, and they'll go wherever they need to. Men's basketball has always kind of been had a little bit of an in Iowa, and at the same time, they've always recruited regionally in the Twin Cities. And so I don't know that it's going to change a lot for them. Coach Pryor, he'll go wherever he needs to go to get good players. And at the same time, I just think it comes down to, if anything, there's a little more exposure for some of the athletes in this area, with joining the Summit League.
Coach, what do you think?
Well, I think that it gets a heck of a lot easier when we've got that family in our office. And we're saying, Mama, Papa, you're going to get a chance to see your child a heck of a lot more in the Summit League. So what we've got is, yes, the kid's thinking, hey, I want to come here and play. But we've got mom and dad that are going, no, you need to go here because we're going to be able to see you more. So it allows us to kind of gang up on that kid recruiting-wise to get that commitment. So
will you still go to the other parts of the country like you always have?
We're going to go other parts of the globe. We're going to find the best kids that are going to represent the university well. And hopefully we don't have to go further outside of that North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota area. But if there's a kid in Uganda that makes us better, she's going to be wearing this color green for us.
All right. And Tommy, the destination we talked about for the media, destination cities like in the Big Sky make a difference. You think that's going to change a little bit for kids coming into the Summit League where you're going to be going to Macomb and Fort Wayne instead of going to some of these beautiful places out west? You think that'll make a difference to kids?
Yeah, I just think you change the sales pitch, like Coach Pryor said, instead of saying, like the football program, for example, played in all 4 time zones. I think that was something they pitched to kids. And we're going to play from New York to Sacramento. Now, like Coach said, you tell mom and dad that we're going to play in your backyard X number of times, and you just sell the ability to see your kid play a little more often and a little cheaper.
You make the best of it. Right?
Absolutely.
That's what you got to do. All right, when we come back, last thing up is our poll question, and it's simply, are you excited about UND joining the Summit League in 2018?
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back. Our poll question this week was simply, are you excited about the University of North Dakota joining the Summit League? And the results out on Facebook and Twitter this week, 80% yes, 11% no, 9% don't care or didn't understand the question. But you understand 4 out of 5 saying yes, and there's no surprise that there are some that are against it, right?
I mean, you're never going to please everybody, so why try?
All right. It's going to be an exciting move, and we'll see what happens. And again, you talk about football. UND joins the Missouri Valley in 2020. The Summit League move is made in 2018. We're excited about it at Midco Sports Network, at least, so we will see what happens. Join us next week in Sioux Falls for Benchwarmers. By the way, we've got some live racing coming up here in Grand Forks at River City Speedway on Friday, June 23rd. Tune in for that. We will see you next week on Benchwarmers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.